Hey everyone, Jason here. I hope you're all doing really good. So today I'm going to be working on an iPad Pro that was sent here all the way from Indonesia. And this iPad Pro is said to have been through at least one shop who failed to repair it, which is absolutely terrifying. At first glance, it doesn't feel like it's been opened before, but you can kind of tell there's some little marks here and there, and somebody's definitely been into this before. So the description I got is that this guy was just using it one day and it just poof, powered off. So one of the first things I do is check these things with a TriStar tester. They're not perfectly accurate, but it is a good diagnostic tool that will let you know, if the dock flex is bad, or sometimes if TriStar is bad. Like, these things will save you some time. So in this case, this thing is passing on VCC main and passing on TriStar. So then connecting this thing up to a charger, we are drawing pretty well an instant 1/2 amp of current. And that's where we hang. There's no indication of anything on the screen, no light, no image, no backlight, no image, nothing, none of that crap going on. It is just dead. So then I'm going to go ahead and get this thing opened up. I'm just going to skip past this part of the video. Let's see what this thing looks like inside. At first immediate glance here, it's not looking too shabby, but we do have tons of fingerprints on it. I'm noticing right away that that far back screw is actually looking a little bit crooked. Thankfully, it does not look like this iPad has had any board level work done to it. It looks like somebody's probably opened it up and hopefully just stopped. I believe the repair on this actually calls for a short screwdriver. This long screwdriver is a little bit too long. All right then, with the screen out of it, I can get a bit of a better look at it. And aside from having signs of just sitting open at a shop somewhere, and otherwise just like obvious signs of humans inside of here, it really doesn't look bad. I'm gonna say just maybe the logic board hasn't been worked on before. There we go. So as this cover lifts up, I'm gonna be using a little bit of heat to soften adhesive, and that's gonna be in an effort to try to not tear anything off the board. Hope that the whole thing just popped off of there. All right, so apparently the adhesive has already been softened, right? So we know this thing is drawing about a 1/2 amp of charging current with the battery connected. One of the things that I really like to do with iPads, and it helps with eliminating and troubleshooting and finding shorts, I want to find out what the current draw is without the battery, because if I disconnect the battery and we still draw a 1/2 amp of current, then that draw is most likely coming from somewhere else on the board and not going to the battery. We'll just slide us a little shim under there like that. Battery disconnected. So then with the battery disconnected, we want to see exactly what we are drawing for charging current. So we're just going to plug that in right there. And with the battery disconnected, we're only drawing 70 milliamps. So that actually tells me quite a bit, actually. The TriStar tester is telling me that it got some valid readings going back to the TriStar IC. It got some valid readings out of the dock flex. Being that we are not drawing any charging current without the battery connected, tells me that this thing is likely trickling some some charge into the battery. Well then, I am going to go ahead and hook this up to the bench power supply and see what it gets when we push the button. So to hook the iPad up to the bench supply, I'm going to be using this tool that I made. We'll remove our little insulator here. Now it's really important not to shove anything under there or yank it out of there, because we have very sensitive data pins under here and they will get destroyed by any manhandling. So let's make sure we've got the copper side of my homemade tool facing up, and also make sure it is only catching the power part of those pins and not the data pins. There we go. So from the way we are orientated here, we're going to hook our positive lead on this side We're going to hook our negative lead on this side. And I'm going to turn the power supply on. 0. And let's press the button to boot. And 1, 2, 3. Boot. 80 milliamps. It has just hung at 80 milliamps, which makes me think now we are in DFU mode, right? Okay. These iPads, they are really flimsy without the screens. The screen actually poses quite a bit, you know, the glass screen is quite a bit of the strength of these things. The symptoms on the DC power supply are just like it's in DFU mode. I'm actually going to connect it to a computer and verify, you know, if it is coming up in DFU mode. I'm going to connect this thing up to iTunes and see, actually, it might not make it all the way to iTunes. Let me just have a gander here. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and plug this thing into my machine, and I'm betting we had successful TriStar tests, whatnot. I'm betting this thing's going to wind up coming up in DFU mode. There it is, mobile Apple device, DFU mode. All right, well, let's go ahead and see what the error code is. We'll just redirect the Apple device. There we are. And I'm going to skip on over to 3U Tools here and let this thing launch an update and see what we get. All right, go Flash. We'll go ahead and download version 16.3. All right, so I'm going to let this download and then come back to it. Actually, while that downloads, let's have a look at this board under the microscope and see if there's anything obviously like loose. One thing that is really common on these larger iPads is these coils get popped loose, and I think that's largely to blame on the back of the housing being like painfully flimsy, and if they get thumped on the back of the housing, they can easily, you know, it pops these things loose. Oh boy, what do we have here? NAND rework, right? Yeah. Okay. Two things. Actually, maybe more than two things. First of all, whoever did the NAND job on this thing, they have done a really good job at keeping like everything else clean, because even glancing over this thing, like at first glance, I would not have thought this thing had prior board level rework. But what we're getting ready to find out is that this thing is stuck in DFU mode. Who knows what the actual original fault here is, but being that somebody else has already tried this hard to solve this one, this is not something that I can profitably work on. Which brings me to the second thing. First thing is, whoever did this, you did really clean work, but this is probably a fault with the CPU or something else. I am absolutely drowning in prior repair attempts. Now, in the past, that was just very, you know, simple dinged up connectors and stuff like that. But the prior repair attempts that I receive now are really involved. 75% of everything that I receive here now has already had board level rework done on it. And not just board level rework, we're talking already had the CPU reballed, already had the entire board replaced. Anyways, it is just not reasonable for me to try to fix and try to solve absolutely everything that the last guy failed on. The amount of time that I would have to put into this for just a maybe is actually tremendous. Now, if I was a full-time YouTuber and was making money just on YouTube videos, this might be something that I would pursue, but I am depending on these devices that come in here to support a family of 5. And this is just not something that I can reasonably take on. I'm going to be kicking this one back to the guy and tell him that it's already been through serious prior board level rework. Wait a minute. You guys want to see what happens when we connect this to a computer, right? So, all right, so here we go. I'm going to connect it to a computer. There we go. And let's see. Let's just first do a retain user data flash. And there you have it. This thing fails to enter recovery mode. I know. You're thinking it's probably because I'm forwarding this through a virtual machine that's actually hosted on a Linux machine. So we should try that on a Windows box, right? Oh. All right, so let's go ahead and connect this thing to iTunes. My bet is that this thing, it's never going to get to the point where it's changing any software. It's going to upload some stuff, restart, and it's not going to make it into the second stage of this process. Preparing iPad for restore. So with iTunes, it's actually going to hang at preparing iPad for restore indefinitely. Isn't that lovely? All right, well, if this thing was here for data recovery and had not already had the NAND messed with, then I would go ahead and proceed with this. But with the condition of the board with the NAND already being messed with, there's no way that I could work on this on a no fix, no fee basis. Like, this will fall under more of a general micro soldering where I'm going to be charging an hourly rate to work on this. And it just makes a lot more sense to replace it. Like, this iPad is going to be best off replaced. And it's tough for me to make that call because I have a big heart and I work on stuff that doesn't deserve to be worked on, which... Anyways, that is going to be the end of this video. I really thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hopefully successful. Have a good day.